Hello and welcome to That Old Recipe, where I find old recipes and try them out. This week's recipe is from Great Recipes, published in 1973 from the New York Times. I chose this recipe, because it's the first one in the book. Also, I think it's a very versatile recipe, and you can change out the spices and the vinegar I use for something that you like or have on hand. This recipe calls for 1 pound of small mushrooms. And these were the smallest ones that I could find. You want to clean these mushrooms and remove the stalks. This is a pretty easy process. Basically, you just give them a little twist and a little pull, and those stems come right out. Don't throw away these stems, use them for your soups. To a pot with your mushrooms, add in 1/4 cup of vinegar. I use red wine vinegar. The recipe doesn't specify. And 1/4 cup of water. Then 2 teaspoons of salt. And bring this to a boil. At first, this is going to seem like this is nowhere near enough liquid, but the mushrooms are going to release a lot of moisture, so trust me. And I'm going to speed this up a bit so you can see what I'm talking about. And right about here, you can see that the pot seems to fill up with liquid. And that's just those mushrooms. They have all this stored liquid moisture in them. So once you have your liquid come to a boil, you're going to add in 1 bay leaf, 6 whole peppercorns, 4 whole cloves, 1 inch of cinnamon stick, and a teaspoon of snipped dill. Once your mushrooms start looking like this, you can go ahead and remove them from the heat. So the recipe specifies that these should be served cold. So what we're going to do is place them in a clean mason jar. So into our clean mason jar, we're going to pour our mushrooms. And the recipe does say that this should yield 2 cups of mushrooms. I didn't get that. I think my mushrooms were too big and too much of this was lost to removing the stalks. I think if you got smaller mushrooms and left those stalks on there, you could potentially get a lot more out of the work that we put in. Alternatively, I think if you use sliced mushrooms, you would get a lot more product as well. And that's just because we're not removing anything from the mushrooms prior to marinating them. So you're going to place this in the fridge and let it cool. It took me about 2 hours. You want to serve these cold on your charcuterie board or enjoy them by themselves. Thank you for watching That Old Recipe.